The Kelly Mid-Morning Show has been given exclusive access to an operation over the weekend targeting bogus taxi drivers. Our reports are joint officers from West Midlands Police along with enforcement officers from Birmingham City Council on Broad Street as part of an ongoing campaign highlighting the danger of getting into a taxi that hasn't been booked. Listen, I tell you what, I want you to hear the pre-recorded package that we've got for you. Then I want to ask you the question. Would you jump in a cab that hadn't been booked? Obviously private hire, you need to book them, otherwise you're not insured. Would you jump into a taxi that had not been booked? You were so desperate to get home. Or would you rather just wait and maybe get the taxi booked properly, maybe hail a hackney? Listen to this and then pick up the phone, 03453 009956. That's the question. Would you just jump in anything to get home? Checks were also carried out to make sure private hire vehicles were roadworthy. Besides the drivers being licensed, we sent James Fanning down to Broad Street on Friday night, who was met by Head of Licensing at Birmingham City Council, Chris Neville.
So we've got teams of licensing enforcement officers out working with the police, working with VOSA, and we are stopping hackney carriages or black cabs, private hire vehicles, to give them a thorough inspection. We're checking both the drivers to make sure that they're the licensed drivers that they're supposed to be, and we're checking that they are complying with the conditions of their licence, about themselves as drivers, and about the condition of their vehicles.
I'm currently at the bay, located just off Broad Street with the police and enforcement team. Taxis have been brought in here and are checked for their roadworthiness, whether this be indicator functioning, vehicle condition or tyre pressures. However, word is just spread that unlicensed drivers are messaging each other to avoid Broad Street.
I'm 3C Dave Humferson and I'm the taxi liaison and enforcement officer seconded to Birmingham City Council. We carry out plying operations which involves plainclothes police officers that target licensed and unlicensed vehicles that illegally ply for hire, putting the members of the public at risk by transporting them in uninsured vehicles, and also if they're not licensed by people we don't know anything about and can cause any kind of crime against that person.
Right, so can you tell us about the vehicle that just come in?
Yeah, the vehicle has been approached by the plying team. It's got markings on it to indicate it is a private hire, but it's got no licence plates anywhere on the vehicle. It is suspected it's a completely unlicensed vehicle. When I've stopped him, the driver has stated the passengers in the back are his next door neighbours. But we all know that they're police officers and he's back here now and he's been dealt with by the enforcement team and he will face prosecution.
It's just gone 20 past midnight and the first vehicle of the night has been seized. The driver was falsely claiming to be a private hire vehicle for a taxi company. This was proved to be not true, meaning the driver had no right to be carrying passengers and will be summoned to court. So Chris, the car behind us has just failed the safety check. What will the impact of this be to the driver?
Well, we're going to remove the plates off his vehicle, effectively suspending his licence now. He'll have to return to the licensing office next week with good tyres on the vehicle. He's been suspended because one tyre is below the legal limit and the spare tyre is the wrong size for the car. It's different to all the others on it. So he won't be able to work this weekend. He'll lose out financially because this is the most lucrative time of the week for them. But then in the week, next week, he'll be able to get his licence back.
So then Dave, can you give me a summary of how tonight's gone?
It's gone very well. It's been very busy on the site. We've checked a vast amount of vehicles. A small number haven't been in a roadworthy condition and have been dealt with by VOSA and taken off the road or issued various fixed penalty tickets. But a good portion of our private hires and black cabs in the city have all passed and free to go about their business.
So after spending the night with the police and enforcement team, I'm going to ask how people on Broad Street feel about potentially getting in an unlicensed taxi.
If you look at the queue behind you, waiting for that, it's long, isn't it? So like, if somebody offers, I'll get into it. If it offers you, jump in it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I probably would, yeah. I don't often use taxis, so...
It takes too long to wait.
No, it's not the same. They offered us taxi and we said no.
I've got a family, I've got children. I would not get in a unlicensed taxi. No insurance. You know, if I had an accident, I wouldn't be covered. At the end of the day, it's my safety. I want to get home to my kids. That's it.
As a woman, then I've got no safety, you know, because I've got nobody to refer that to. Did anything happen? And my sister has had an incident in a taxi before now. Luckily, she got out. She kicked the door open, got out, and got to her house. And that was in a licensed taxi.
Well, Well, 48 cabs were checked. 2 people now face prosecution as a result of the operation. One driver was operating as a taxi without a licence, whilst another was caught picking up passengers without a booking. 4 vehicles were found not to be roadworthy. The vehicles were seized and the owners were fined. Chris Neville, Head of Licensing at Birmingham City Council, joins me now. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Danny.
Good morning. Thanks for your time. So, how do you feel the operation went?
It went well. There were probably fewer vehicles that we actually checked than we anticipated checking, because as that report alluded to, once we start work, the message goes out around the drivers, and they start avoiding the area. Some of the people that the reporter spoke to in the taxi queue on Broad Street were saying the queue was very long. That was because taxis were avoiding Broad Street because they knew that enforcement officers and the police were out checking vehicles, and they didn't want to run the risk of being checked. Normally those queues wouldn't be that bad.
Well, that suggests that they didn't want to run the risk of being checked, maybe because there was something wrong with their car, which is worrying.
Well, they never know, do they? And the point is, they should know, because before they take their vehicle out on the road at night, they ought to check over it and make sure that everything is okay with it. But some of the drivers just don't want to run that risk and will stay out of an area.
So you took a car off road, did you? Or off the road, excuse me.
Yeah.
And then the VOSA inspectors what would they do? They'd just give it a brief going over with a torch, and maybe they'd jack it up a bit?
They don't even jack it up. We don't have that kind of facility at those sorts of sites, but they give it as thorough inspection as they can by visual inspection, using torches, yes, looking under the vehicle, trying to look at brakes.
How long does that take?
It probably takes about 10 minutes.
Yeah, you see, that's another reason they just don't want to be stopped, isn't it?
It is.
It's taking 10 minutes away from them earning some money, maybe.
It is, and we do get that thrown at us by the drivers, that they resent the fact that we stop them. But, you know, safety is paramount, and they are licensed drivers, licensed by the City Council. As part of their licence, they have to agree to be checked out on the road.
And what about the results? I think our reporter went through them in the package. 4 vehicles were found to be unroadworthy.
Yeah.
Now, in this weather as well, with the ice and the plummeting temperatures,
yeah,
you want to be in a car with good tyres and brakes and suspension.
Absolutely. It's appalling, really, that drivers are prepared to take risks with their own safety, let alone the safety of the passengers that they're carrying. But, you know, that's why we do these checks. If we weren't doing these checks, those sorts of cases would be more prevalent, probably, because drivers know that they are likely to be stopped.
What about the guy who was driving and he was pretending to be a cabbie?
Yeah.
Now, this is worrying because, you know, you can imagine as a lone, vulnerable woman who wants to get home at 1 o'clock on a Sunday morning, she's enjoyed a Saturday night out, jumps in a cab, and he's not even a taxi driver.
Yeah.
In fact, she's not even jumping into a cab, she's jumping into a car.
Yeah.
Tell us about that character.
Well, these are the worst sorts of cases that we find. Thankfully, we don't find these very often, but we did find one on Friday. The point is, when you're a licensed private hire driver, part of that licensing process is that we check your criminal record to make sure that you're fit and proper and suitable to be carrying the public around. Now, that person hasn't gone through that process. We haven't given him a licence, so he might have all sorts of criminal history which we don't know about. He might be perfectly okay, he might be as safe as anybody, but nobody knows, and you can't take that risk. So he was a man who had gone out, he'd got some private hire operator plates from somewhere and stuck them on the side of his vehicle. So he'd only got part of the plates, he hadn't got the council's plates, but he'd got the operator's plates. So a member of the public would see and think, oh look, it's a private hire car, and hence they would get in it. And of course he knew exactly that what he was doing was illegal. Hence, as soon as the police flagged him down, he said, the people in the back are my neighbours, I'm just giving them a lift.
What did they say? I'd love to have been a fly on the wall in that cab. Not even a cab, car.
Well, yeah, the police officers who are in the back, who are in plain clothes, remain silent until they actually get to the stop site.
What, they were cops in the back in that case?
Yes, because that's how we catch them, you see. We use plain clothes special constables who stand around on the side of the street in, busy areas, outside pubs and what have you, acting as many members of the public do, and just try and flag down or get into a private hire that they haven't booked, which is means that the driver commits an offence and that those passengers then aren't covered by that driver's insurance policy if there's an accident, and there is no record of the fact that that booking ever existed. It's also a form of unfair trading to the hackney carriage trade, the black cabs, because they've paid for a licence which permits them to do that. Private hire cars who do that are cheating them as well, as well as cheating the public.
Do you think it's fair, though, that private hires can't pick up? I mean, yeah, from a punter's perspective, all they are, there's a driver in a car and they're going to take me home. And the difference between a private hire and a hackney...
This has all been examined closely very recently by the Law Commission. They've spent 2 years looking at all legislation relating to taxis. And there was a case put forward to say, should there be a difference? Shouldn't it be the case that any driver can pick up, whether private hire or hackney? However, the Law Commission has concluded that difference, that distinction should remain, and that as far as we're concerned, from now and in the future, only hackney carriages are allowed to pick up. And their vehicles are designed specifically for the public to be able to get in and out of. They're equipped with ramps for disabled people in wheelchairs and stuff.
A lot more expensive as well, aren't they?
It is a lot more expensive, whereas a private hire car, it could be any vehicle virtually to an extent, and they aren't adapted. So the taxis as well, the hackney carriage drivers have to take a more difficult knowledge test. They have a greater knowledge of the geography
I understand.
of a location.
And there has to be a perk to that, or a benefit rather than a perk. Yeah,
that's
now,
right.
I'm going to take a call, and you can listen in if you want to respond. You may do. Ahmed's in Erdington. Hi, Ahmed.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Did you notice the operation on Friday night? Did word get round quickly?
No, I don't work in Broadstreet. I normally work Saturday night, Friday night in certain coalfields. And it's so annoying, Danny, because we got Sandwell private hire renting like nobody's business outside the clubs and pubs in certain coalfields. Broad cities worse, and Chinatown. And I wish police was doing something, because you see the police officers walking up and down, and I think very interested to get public home, no matter how they get. But unfortunately, people don't realize that they're not insured when you're jumping into any vehicle. Police will, I think, back me on that. You're not insured, and I think we need more awareness of the public safety as well. And
you'll comment that the police just want people out of the city or the town centre.
I was told that. I'm sorry, but I was told that by there was a private rank on a black cab rank, and they don't realize, some of them. I don't know. I think we need more enforcement in these areas. And the two police officers outside a club, and I've approached them. I said, look, you shouldn't be parked there. He said, well, there's a lot of people in this club, and we want them to get home. We don't care how. That is their attitude.
Well, Chris, you may want to pick up on that, and you don't have to, because this was a call to me, but you were listening to it.
I mean, the driver's commenting on the fact that there are vehicles working in Birmingham who are licensed by other local authorities, such as Sandwell in that case. That in itself isn't illegal. That would be a vehicle licensed by Sandwell who've gone through similar processes to those that Birmingham have followed, so there's no reason at all that driver or that vehicle should be any better or any worse than any other vehicle. As long as he's working legally and taking...
He's been pre-booked.
Ahmed,
you're
not pre-booked, hang on, you got it wrong, sir. Not pre-booked. I don't think they're allowed to rank outside the clubs, or they're not allowed to pick up from the streets. If they got booked jobs, that's fine. But I wish you can come with me and sit in my cab Friday or Saturday night, and I'll show you. It's happening every day. They're ranked outside the clubs, and I'm sure they're not allowed to do that.
The situation...
They haven't got any booked jobs, and sometimes they got to cheat. When there's no cabs on certain rank, for example, they will just rank, and we try to tell them. They don't listen to us because we lost the marshals. We used to have marshals on rank, and that's gone. And there's nobody...
Okay, Ahmed, let Chris come back at you with his response. Thank you, Ahmed.
I mean, it's a case of we would like to be everywhere all the time. We would like to have enforcement officers out on all the major centres of nighttime economy around the city, including Sutton. And Sutton is somewhere that we work quite frequently as well. It's a little bit like when we are there, the drivers behave themselves. When we're not there, we know things go on. But we do as much as we possibly can, and we're going to be increasing the amount of enforcement between now and over the Christmas period, just trying to police the situation and get drivers to do what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and what about all the year round as well? This is a festive operation, is it? Or about in the middle of summer?
Well, no, we do it all year round. I mean, the sort of operation we ran on Friday night, we do about 20 of those a year. So they're quite frequent, but we're kind of highlighting it at this time of the year because now is the busiest time for the taxi trade. Yeah. And what we're trying to do, as much as we're trying to make sure that the drivers are doing what they're supposed to do, we're trying to educate the public so that they understand the risks they take if they flag private hire vehicles or, at worst case, unlicensed vehicles. If they flag them down, do they realise the risks they're taking with their own safety?
Okay, thanks very much indeed for coming to the studio. Thank you. What's going to happen to those two characters? One wasn't even a taxi driver, and the other one is goes unroadworthy.
They will now both face prosecution. They'll be reported for prosecution and go to the magistrate's court.
So it's an arrestable offence. It's purporting to be a taxi driver.
It's not arrestable, but they'll be summoned. And the one who has a licence will go before the licensing committee if he's convicted, and he risks then losing that licence forever. So he'll lose his livelihood.
Okay, it ain't worth it, is it?
No.
Thanks for coming in, Chris Neville. Thank you very much indeed. 7 minutes to 11. And listen, as we spoke, you heard in the Vox Pops the recording there in a taxi rank. A number of people were saying there's no way I'd get into a private hire unless it was booked. No way. Not a chance. Not insured. A number of people said, well, I tell you what, if I'm honest with you, I just want to get home. I don't mind. So would you get into an unlicensed, would you get into a taxi that hadn't been pre-booked? So we're not talking about hackneys because you can just hail them down and they can pick you up and they can pull up and you don't need to pre-book. But as far as private hires are concerned, 03453 009956.